All cameras are rolling and frame. Action.
Yo, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I'm good. Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
This is giving me like own network.
Right. Like we're home. We're home and
Like Oprah and you know,
Like,
and
let's
the
get
Prince
into it.
and the, yeah.
Yeah.
It's giving me that. Like I owe you an explanation.
Right.
Kinda. But nah. So what's good?
well, I mean, I feel like there's so much to talk about. I feel like there's so much to discuss. I mean, you're such a big inspiration of mine, especially in the city and just as a person in general. And I think that everything that you stand for as a creative is just so empowering for young entrepreneurs as well, really trying to find their ground and find their path on figuring out where they want to go and how they see that kind of becoming. So how about we kind of get into the nitty-gritty?
Okay.
And please share just a little bit about like your journey so far, like some things that you've kind of navigated maybe within the pandemic, on trying to find your way and figuring it out as you go.
It's been like a very intense year. A year of more self-discovery. A year where I feel like I really understood the weight of the role of creative director, because I feel like up until this point I had the creative part down.
Right.
But the director part is the thing that's added like an entire new layer to my career. Like I really understand like what that means now. I didn't really understand the title before. I just understood the creative part, and I was so fixated on that. And now I feel like I'm understanding
There's so much more to it.
the director part. But I got some questions for you. So I'm curious to know, like, did you see this happening for yourself, like this trajectory that you're on? Was this did you intend for this to happen?
Not at all. And I think that is why I always continue to tell people to stay true to who they are, because you never know what could happen. And for me, like, all of this wasn't anything that I ever expected or was anything that I was like looking for. It was just me allowing myself to be as unapologetic to who I am. And with that came big shifts that I wasn't as prepared for in the beginning, as I have kind of grown into what this industry is now.
Right. Do you have art parents? Parents who support the arts?
Yeah, my stepdad is a DJ.
Okay.
And my mom is a nail tech, an esthetician, so she has her own spot here in the city. So I've kind of always been surrounded by creative minds and people who have to find solutions to their problems when it comes to really focusing on the creative part, because it's hard doing what you're passionate about, especially if it's in a creative way, because you have to pay the bills, and sometimes being creative doesn't really pay.
Why do you think that is?
Well, now we can get into it, especially being a Black creative. Our creatives are always usually taken advantage of in terms of our work being republished, reposted, reshared, reused, and recycled, where we may not have even intended for that to even go that way to begin with. But I guess over time, you really, as soon as you step into more so of who you are as a creator, you can find ways of adding the financial aspect to it as well, which I've kind of been able to, and so have my parents, but it's not as easy as it sounds. It's like you really have to figure it out as you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I feel like the powers that be, or the institution, people who are in control, like they don't just let the culture and our creativity flow. They feel like that, you almost know like when they gotta filter water first.
Yeah.
That's how it feels. That's how it's felt. Like they gotta take what we have and repurpose it so it's digestible to the masses, instead of like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people who end up on shows like Ellen or get articles, and it's like, it derives from Black creatives, or it derives from dances that we made, and then it gets repurposed and presented like in a new way that we have nothing to be a part of. My whole thing, I just want I want the scales to be even.
Likewise.
Like, you know what I mean? I want like people who are in positions to stand by their solidarity, because I saw a lot of that last year, a lot of things that they said were going to change, a lot of things that they stood behind, and it's not like an Instagram story for me. Like, it's not like a
We need to see
24
some
hours and
movement.
it fades away and it's fleeting. Like, I really want things to be just fair. Like, and I know that's asking a lot in terms of the word fair, because you're adding like commerce and art, but I do think that things need to they need to even out.
Yeah.
What is the biggest problem or challenge that the space you're in or the industry you're in that it's facing?
I know for myself, I've been in some of these spaces and have felt so isolated because I am the only Black person trying to represent our whole community and provide opportunities for other people. But I think that's one of my biggest challenges so far is...
Would you consider yourself to be an optimistic person?
Yeah.
And do you think, because we're talking about institutions and people who are empowered, do you think with all the solidarity, all the donations, all the we side with you, like, do you think the people who are, and the brands who are in these positions of power, do you think they're actually ready to even the scales? Do you think because what it really means, I feel, if they start, allocating resources to open up opportunity for people like us, a lot of people are going to be out of a job.
No, for sure. A lot of people would be out of a job and a lot of people would be having the opportunity to fill those positions.
Right.
And those are the kind of the things that we have to think about, is that what's going to better our future, what's going to better these businesses, these companies, our lifestyles. And unless we make the change, we'll never know. What do you think?
I think that half and half. I think some of them are ready to do it because I feel like it's needed to add to what they got going on, and others, no. I feel because we haven't really seen it happening where it could have, or as fast as it could have,
or at all,
or at all. Like, in design, you don't really see Black people a lot. Like, there's not like heavy representation like we have in sports, entertainment, and so within that space, there needs to be more of a conversation around just like normalizing the fact that we're interested in shit like that. You know what I mean? Because I think it's so bizarre to be in meetings and, it's not even like people mean to be, but them being surprised that like, about a chair or like, about, a shade of whatever. Like, I just think we have like a lot of groundwork to do to continue to infiltrate these spaces and make like real change.
And that's the thing, like, we are exactly what we've always been talking about so far. Like, we're still not seeing the action. We're still not seeing the actual, like, talk that they're talking. Like, we need to see some walk now. We need to see some running, because it's like we've been running forever, trying to catch up to the stuff that we've already started.
Yeah, I feel like with me, lack of commitment. So it's like you said, like, we watched a lot of brands come out and say, we stand with you, we're gonna reconfigure this, we're gonna even this out, and then things just never changed. Like, they just never changed. And I think it was easy to do that because we're on platforms where things are so temporary anyway. And the real work had to be done when it came to where were you putting the budget? Because it was easy to get a 600 by 600 post and share that the one day or the 1 week, but like we need like lasting change. Like I just want to see more of the commitment. That's what I think is the long lasting commitment.
Right, because especially because the people that a lot of these brands are partnering with now, it's a lot of people's personal experiences and how they are navigating their own lives in collaboration with these brands. So it's like, what is the most authentic and the most genuine partnerships? And if I'm having a genuine partnership with somebody that I'm actually excited about working with, I want to know that I can go into a shoot and see myself in the people that are actually shooting me versus seeing a cast of a director, producer, like everybody in there that isn't Black.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of the shoots that I've been on so far, which I'm grateful for, however, it's uncomfortable because I still am showing up in the way that I've always had to show up and be like, I have to bite my tongue and do what I gotta do and do my best and try my hardest, but I still don't feel like I'm understood because I don't see myself here at all.
For me, it stops at,
If it's personal for you, if it's Sean Brown,
yeah.
that's more so, I feel like, because I know for me, like my brand is personal. Like I am Donté Colley, like, and that's who we're partnering with. But
Right.
say like you're directing or creative directing for someone, it may be, you may run into more challenges because you have more people at the table talking about it and discussing it.
Right. If both, it's a bit of both. If it's personal, I think it stops at, would I have done this on my own if I wasn't being offered money? You know what I mean?
Right.
So if I answer that no, then it's a no. Like if I really don't believe in the product, if I would never stand behind this brand's mission statement, then
It's gonna be a no for me.
And it doesn't even matter what you're offering. It just like that doesn't align. But when it comes to someone else's vision, that's a bit more. As long like we can have a difference in taste and in visual communication and all that. But I just think when it comes to collaborating with other people, it would have to be who else does this affect? Us partnering together. Like, does this affect a large group of people? Which I was telling you upstairs, like, you know, now being in meetings and boardrooms with agencies and like just seeing how we get things like the kid in the H&M shirt, how we get the Pepsi commercial. Like I can see how those things happen now firsthand because it's just like our representation isn't rooted in these places. You know what I mean? So now like they got to deal with people who look like us coming on the Zoom calls with the do-rags being like, yo, black people don't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To save what the entire representation of us all looks like. You know what I mean? Because I don't always believe it's like a malicious thing. It's like a lack of information, lack of communication, an assumption of who we are.
Lack of education.
Because there's us as like black people, like me and you talking, like even when we came and we daps, like we're speaking like a visual language already. But then there's like the world's black lens. And we have to like kind of make sure we're polishing that glass because they really don't not everyone, but there's a large misunderstanding of like who we are as black people. So I'm just sitting there sometimes being like, yo, we do other things than do backflips, braid our hair on a stoop. You know what I mean? The 808 drums in the commercials, like we just do more things. I'm just so taken back by the fact that like in 2021,
you guys still can't figure it out.
They don't think we like space or architecture or that we're gardeners or that like, you know, the black lens has to change. And that's where I've realized my place in this whole thing is in like trying to drive change.
And I think the wrong way of doing things is being ignorant in terms of like what we've kind of experienced over the past year, especially at the beginning of everything that was unfolding in our community and put out online.
It felt like the wrong approach because it was like a reaction to something that literally turned everything on its head. This way of doing it or addressing is not something I want to participate in. And it did around that time force me to look inward and be like, yo, well, how do I fit into all this? Because I do believe you have to have a point of view on these things. I think the most dangerous place to be is to not feel anything about it, not have any point of view on it. Whether, you know, because what it did too, it showed you how social media, the only way people kind of are receptive to activity is if they can see it. You know, so people assume you're happy only if they can like see that you're posting the photo of it or the video of it. They can only assume you're happy and on vacation if you're sharing it. They don't believe that anything could be happening offline. And so that really forced me to be like, yo, how do I fit in to all this? Where can I position myself to where my voice and my platform and my influence has like a way to affect change, like for real? So add that on to the creative directing part of things. Now when you add the director part and all the collaboration and working with this agency and this client, like you can really now see this is where I can make lasting change. It's in these rooms, having these conversations, these big decisions that are made that affect so many people. And if we just don't have representation there, if we're not having the conversation there to really be like, yo, guys, let's rethink this. Black people don't look like this. We don't want to see this. We're tired of you just putting only trauma on screen or in like, you know, like, let's do this differently. Like, that's where I think I fit into, you know, affecting change.
No, agreed. Like, I definitely feel like that's, if I find it very familiar for my side of things too, and really wanting to make meaningful impact, because I know what it feels like to feel like absolute trash. I know what the darkness feels like, and I would never wish that upon anybody else. So the way that I would want to see that meaningful change is by being myself, and also not being a complete open book, but at least knowing that, hey, we're human.
Which I find so inspiring about you, that you just, it's more front facing, like you don't have a problem, it doesn't matter, you know, what's going on. It's like you can still give us the dancing, the energy, the art, but at the same time, like, yo, I gotta let you know also what's happening in the world and what we can all be doing about it. I actually admire that, like, so much. I admire you for that. I admire people who are on the front lines of things. And I just think everyone has to just decide where in this thing they fit. Like, you know, but I do not believe you can't have a point of view at all about it. Like, you gotta decide, like,
With all of the extra stuff added on top, it was really a time for people to really look within and really figure out who they are and what they want to improve on, or what they want to let go of. But yeah,
do you think it's your responsibility to be educating?
No, but I know that by being myself, that's education in itself, because I'm learning too. I'm learning as I go. I'm learning every single day. There's not a day where we're not learning something new about ourselves, right? So I think that's the point, is just continue to walk the power that you have, that no one can take away unless you let them. What do you think allies, the people that want to really show up for us, the people that want to do better, the people that want to see change, what do you think they could do more of that they're not doing enough of now?
I think allyship is what you do when I'm not there. It's in the same way a good friend. How do you talk? You can tell me, yo, you can trust me. I care about you, and that's all fine. But I feel like a true friend, you'll know how loyal they are. You'll know how much of an ally they could be when how they treat you, the things they say about you when you're not around. And so allyship to me looks like, it is exhausting for me and for people like me to have to continuously be reminded that y'all are willing to do this and to do that. So you don't have to remind me about Black brands. You don't have to remind me about Black creators. These people are all my friends. They come from the same communities, struggles, setbacks, challenges I come from. Of course, not blanketing that under like gender and sexual, but I'm saying like, we're from it. What I need, what I would hope we all want, is that when you guys are at your dinner tables at home, when you're in the office, you have that discourse amongst yourself with your family members about people of color, about jobs, about where budgets and things are allocated, about that you have those conversations, because that's how this thing is going to change itself. Is like, if we don't have access to those spaces, there are moments we get to like talk for ourselves and speak for ourselves, but what about the times we don't? When it's just a group of them, like in places, and they're having discourse amongst themselves. Someone in there's got to speak up for us. That's what allyship looks like to me. Guys, when there's no Black people in the room and someone stands up and says, yo, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should think about this. Maybe instead of this person, maybe we should get a Black woman to do this. Maybe we should get an Aboriginal woman. Maybe we need some representation of someone who looks like that. Like, that's what allyship looks like to me. Not always us being reminded to remind them. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all have the conversations with yourselves, like, because that's what needs to change. We've all been we're the ones who are trying to have access to these spaces, these venues, these jobs, these opportunities. there's a point of it where it becomes like on them to open up to change and have that discourse amongst themselves.
Right. It's like when shit hits the fan, who's helping me clean it up?
Right.
And if you're helping me clean it up and you're like, oh my gosh, this is crazy, like just imagine how we're feeling.
Right.
Because we are cleaning up the shit every day. We're dealing with yours and ours.
Right.
And that to me is like where, as an ally, you need to be a lot more aware and conscious of, is that your struggles are also ours, and we have our struggles on top of everything else that we're trying to manage in our own lives. Like there's so many things.
Do you look at allyship differently now since in the past year?
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Same.
I've grown up in a lot of communities where, even though I'm in Scarborough, my age group is very multicultural, where I've had a lot of white friends, I've had a lot of different friends and from different races, which is beautiful. But also when it came to the matter at hand, especially when it came to standing with us and standing for us and running the marathon with us, not just the race, it opened up my eyes to a lot of people to really understand that there's a lot of internal work that they need to do, that they haven't been cultured enough to understand what that looks like.
Right.
So what about you? How do you feel like you can continue to just make change in whatever that looks like on your journey?
So I've been thinking about this a lot, and I feel like, I'm sure you can relate to this too, like my upbringing was very much, and to no fault of my father, he was teaching me and giving me the information his father was giving him, but a lot of it had to do with me making sure I was presentable to their idea of the world. You know what I mean? So don't have braids, cut your hair, pull up your pants, like watch how you walk, posture. And I understand now that like a lot of those things were to protect me, but maybe unknowingly, like my family and my dad, they were like almost suppressing like my blackness in a way, technically.
Yeah.
I'm saying? And so change for me now looks like I said, I'm gonna be on these Zoom calls in my do-rag. I spent a lot of time, I came up in fashion, I spent a lot of time trying to fit into the fashion industry's idea of beauty and trying to get into worlds and be accepted by worlds that weren't mine, the Ralph Lauren world. You know what I'm saying? Tommy Hilfiger, these worlds weren't mine. That's why now you see me, I'm back on the Sean John, the Nietzsche, the academics, because like, yo, those are ours.
And they're raw and real.
I'm just done trying to suppress like the blackness. I just have to be this thing by default, because it's harder for me to operate and move and create in a world where I have to think about what I look like and then
Your story,
do my
man.
thing. So at this point, that's where the change is. Just like by default, I'm just gonna continue to just be black. So what does it look like for you? Like, how are you making ripples? What's the ripple effect and how you see change? People looking at you, being inspired by you, people who are gonna come after you.
I mean, I'm just gonna keep being me, because that's all I know how to do and all that I would wanna do in this life, and hopefully encourage others to do the same.
Right.
Because there's so much life to live, there's so much to look forward to. Even at times when you think that there isn't, there's so much more in store.
Right.
And I guess that's what I'm gonna be figuring out too, what's in store.
Right.
How about you?
I mean, I'm just gonna keep unlearning, staying curious and using any form of influence or privileges that I have to be in the spaces that I'm in for the right reason, like to help further the conversation about, you know, what it looks like for us to be creative and to affect change. And that's how I'm gonna make, that's the ripple effect I see happening for me and how I fit into this thing.
Period.
Yeah.
It's the dominoes for us. Let's get them all knocked down together.
But yo, thank you for talking to me today. I really appreciate this conversation. I think there's a lot of currency in just having conversation with people.
Absolutely. So. I'm really grateful. Appreciate you, homie.
Cheers.
Man, thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you talking.